Welcome back. This is Signature Television. A few days ago, news broke that Iboja has been killed in a mysterious manner. I mean, when you hear killing, you would think maybe an armed robbery attack or maybe somebody had an accident or something. But no, it was another case of the police brutality. This time around, it was from an inspector of police shooting indiscriminately against Iboja that led to his death. The circumstances around that particular story is still something that is under wraps. There hasn't been any clear thought about the situation, about what happened, because videos circulating on social media show that Iboja, as of that day he was killed, Friday the 27th, apparently was at the police anti-cult environment. You know, you could see in the video with him and his entourage hitting the drums and even entertaining the leaders of the anti-cult at the time. So after that, what happened? The police says they are investigating the matter, but even up until this moment, the inspector who was involved in that shooting has been dismissed and been put into custody. But is that even enough? We have Barrister Ogbe, who has been following this issue and other issues as it relates to police brutality and the attendance issues. Barrister Chukwunonso Ogbe is live with us. Good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. My pleasure.
Another unfortunate incident, one that you would say that, where do we go from here really? I don't know if you have gotten the accurate account of what really happened, because it's still a shocking incident. What have you been listening to? What have you been hearing about this development?
Anyway, what I will say is that the last is yet to be heard as far as the circumstances surrounding the untimely demise, or better still, the gruesome murder of Iboja is concerned. And I can assert emphatically that it's only when the defendant, or better still accused person in this case, is given an opportunity to give his evidence in court, that's when we will now, to a great extent, be in a better position to know what actually happened. Apart from the defendant, because I would no longer refer to him as a suspect, being that he has been arraigned in court and he has accordingly been remanded in custody. Going by, I believe he must have volunteered his statements before he was arraigned in court. And from the statements which he volunteered, vis-a-vis the line of action that the prosecution will took in presenting that statement to the court when it is time for him to be prosecuted at the High Court, that is when we may now be in a better position to have a glimpse, or better still, an idea of what must have transpired on the 27th of October, when the young man died in circumstances shrouded in controversy. But I think the demise of Iboja is somewhat controversial in the sense that this will not be referred to as a case of extrajudicial killing in the true sense of it, in the sense that, to the best of our knowledge, he wasn't actually arrested. As you rightly pointed out from the introductory remarks you made, from the video clips in circulation in various social media platforms, he went to the anti-cults unit of the Nigerian police force here in Enugu State on that fateful day. And we could see him in the midst of even the leader of that particular outfit, who has now been redeployed from what we are made to understand, in the person of now SP Chidobe Ekeleme. So there was this joyous environment. And I wouldn't hold brief for the defendant, because the matter to a great extent is sub judice. But let's wait and see what happens at the end of the day, so that by the time we hear the stories of both parties, we will be able to make an informed decision, or better still, opinion on what may have transpired at the anti-court unit. In which case, I wouldn't know if there was a case of maybe infirmity of the mind on the part of his assailant, whether something came over him, because these are realities of life. Even in law, I know as a fact that there are those who ordinarily should be held guilty of the offense of murder, because of some other circumstances surrounding the particular facts of their case. They may be held guilty of lesser offense, maybe for the offense of manslaughter or similar offenses as opposed to the offense of murder. Because assuming there was confrontation from what we saw between the deceased and maybe the officers and men of the Nigerian police force in that particular outfit, that's when you will now say that maybe because of that confrontation, then the young man was killed. Except if some other thing, some other development took place in that environment, which we are not privy to. But as I said, let's wait and see what happens, because both the state, in this case, contextually, the prosecution and then the defendants, they will have their days in court. They will come forward to tell their stories, and necessary questions will be asked for the world to actually know whether there was a case of premeditated murder or a case of carelessness on the part of the officer who is now facing trial. So, or maybe that the officer acted based on the spur of the moment, or that he acted based on circumstances beyond his control. We will know at the end of the day, but it's quite an unfortunate one. So I won't, as I noted earlier, I won't actually tag this a case of extrajudicial killing in the true sense of it, because he wasn't arrested to the best of our knowledge.
Okay, but what you know, what would you say, led to what that day of his murder?
What I will say is that on a professional note, I think the officers and men of the Nigerian police force, they erred by allowing even the deceased Iboja, his entourage, to embark on the line of action they told in that particular environment.
The entertainment and the playing of band.
Exactly. In a police station where you have men who are armed, because one may now start raising this nation whether the officer was drunk. Because it's possible in a joyous environment like that, when the officers were happy, we saw some of them dancing. And there's another video clip that I saw. I wouldn't know that video clip also emanated from that environment, where the deceased, while plying his trade with his members of his group, he was seated on a chair, and there are some drinks on top of the table. So I wouldn't know if in the course of the celebration that there are some officers, decided to take good care of themselves. And the deceased, on a more serious note, happened to be a talented artist. So you wouldn't really tell maybe why acting under the influence of alcohol. You wouldn't tell whether maybe the officer in a joyous moment, being influenced by the dosing of alcohol that has been consumed, may have acted in a strange manner that led to the demise of the young man. So on a professional note, that shouldn't have been allowed to take place in that environment in the first instance. But as I noted earlier, let's wait and see what happens. I only hope and pray that the government of the day will accord expeditious attention to the trial of the defendants in custody, and also that the principle of fair hearing will be well respected in the course of the adjudication of the suit, so that all parties will be given that opportunity to actually tell the world what happened, and so that justice will be served at the end of the day. And in which case, if it is found of a truth that, yes, that the man was killed, but going by the facts and circumstances of the case, that it wasn't a case of murder, then the lesser punishment of manslaughter could suffice. Because I'm not holding brief for the officer, but from information being brandished about by some persons on social media platforms, we are made to understand that he has exhibited regret and remorse over what has happened. Let me make something clear at this juncture. Expressing regrets or remorse will not make one not to be accountable or guilty of any offense committed if at the end of the day the person is found to be to have violated the provisions of penal laws. But from the insinuations being made, it's like the officer or the erstwhile officer has come forward to say that this wasn't an intentional act. But let's wait and see what happens at the end of the day. And I also know that some persons have raised the issue of the possibility of about either 6 or 8 rounds of ammunition being released into the body of the deceased.
Yeah.
But some other person has also come forward to explain how AK-47 rifle, how the workings of AK-47 rifle, that is an automatic gadget, in which case once the run button is pressed, it's not like the ordinary conventional maybe rifles that you have to fire on intermittent basis before there be response. That once the run button is pressed, series of ammunitions could leave the gadget within a space of less than a minute. So that may be what actually happened. But by and large, there should be a dispassionate appraisal of what happened. And if you ask me, I will also say that the government somehow may not have gotten it right at this juncture, going by the hasty manner in which investigation was conducted. The man arraigned in court and remanded, because in the course of doing that, some blunders may be committed. Whenever you are in a haste to attend some legal assignments, chances are that mistakes may be made. It is said that justice delayed is justice denied. Likewise, justice hastily served is also justice denied. So there should be a striking of balance between not being indolent and also between not being too hasty in order to ensure that the proper thing is done. So I wonder the possibility, because ordinarily, in my own thinking, there should have been even a forensic examination of the bullets used. An autopsy should be conducted. These are some of the things that should have been done before the defendant will be arraigned. But I wouldn't know if such a thing was done. It's possible that autopsy may have been conducted because of the interest of the government in this particular matter. So I wouldn't. It's when we now get to court, we will now get to know the facts of the case and the steps that were taken by the government of the day prior to the arraignment of the officer. But by and large, if in the course of trying to satisfy public opinion, the government now acted hastily, in arraigning the defendant in court, we may end up having a situation whereby people may come back tomorrow to say, wow, judiciary has let the man off the hook. If at the end of the day this matter comes to court and maybe the defense team now discovers some loopholes in the case of the prosecution, and if that should be the case, then in the true sense of it, it's not within that justice has been done.
Okay, I would want to ask, at what point would you say that release of ammunition on a civilian or at a civilian becomes unintentional? Because according to what you just narrated, even if it's automated rifle, you should have, sparked to other people around, but was particularly targeted at this particular deceased man. So at what stage would you say that release of ammunition, maybe by mistake and all of that, would be, coined as unintentional?
The test in law is the test of a reasonable man. There is no hard and fast rule to this particular issue. In other words, what applies to fact A may not apply to fact B. You have to look at the facts and circumstances of a given case. In which case, this question will be asked as to what will be the opinion of a right-thinking man in the circumstance of that of a given case. For instance, if while being in possession of a rifle, then an officer maybe or the person in possession of the rifle now mistakenly, not negligently, mistakenly now found himself in a situation whereby the rifle, because of the manner in which it was put in place, now inflicted harm on another person. Taking a look at the facts and circumstances of that given case, the person may be deemed to have did not have been negligent in handling that particular rifle. But if an officer is drunk, if there's evidence that an officer, while being in possession of a firearm, is drunk, then you will not come back to claim that it was a case of accidental discharge because you did not exercise due diligence and care in the course of handling that rifle. There are rules and regulations guiding the use of rifle by officers and men of the Nigerian police force. So whenever there is any case of prima facie abuse or misuse of a rifle, you now have to look at the facts and circumstances of that given case. For instance, taking a look at the issue under review, if it was established that the officer was drunk, then he cannot come back to say that it was a case of was accidental discharge, because the test of a reasonable man envisages that you shouldn't be drunk while armed with an AK-47 rifle. The test of a reasonable man envisages that you shouldn't be drunk while in the course of your official duty, and in which case in law you are expected to shoulder the responsibility for any consequences that will emanate from your action, or any consequences that is envisaged will emanate from your action. It's just like maybe if you decide to jump from a 3-story building because you believe you are a gallant officer, while believing that you will not die. If you jump from that story building and if anything happens to you, a case of suicide or attempted suicide will accrue, because the logical inference that will be drawn is that if you should toe that line of action, that what happened is bound to happen. So while being armed and in the company of other persons, you decide to get drunk, then a case of murder, vis-a-vis other facts and circumstances of the case that be put forward by the prosecution, could be registered. But for instance, in the course of trying to apprehend a criminal, who in law it is permissible for an officer to use his arms to apprehend, in the course of trying to get at the criminal, then the officer now mistakenly fires his shot at an innocent person. Then in that case, going by the facts and circumstances of the case, a case of what's it called? Mistake could be attributed in favor of the officer.
I'm really shocked by this development, really, and I'm you know, given that we are still talking about this police brutality thing, it hasn't gone away just yet. Since the NSAS campaign ended in 2020, the call for SARS unit of the police that should be in one way or another be disbanded. We've seen all other killings that have happened. In this Enugu, there was a young man that was killed, but he was driving, and I think the story was that he was waved and he didn't stop, and he was shot and killed. He was driving a Benz along the Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway. I don't know. This is just something that happened 2 weeks ago or so, and then this week we are seeing. This last week we're seeing this particular issue. One would think that with what you have seen and the experience that you have garnered, do you think there's any significant change in the behavior of police when they are relating with people, with the young people of Nigeria today?
Anyway, the point there, as I noted earlier, I have to revert to the issue of Iboja in addressing this question. Iboja's case may not be regarded as a case of extrajudicial killing in the true sense of it, subject to whatever will happen in court at the end of the day. But by and large, I'm able to say that the line of action that the government of the day has taken so far, when I mean government contextually, including the authorities of the Nigerian police force, in redeploying the head of this tactical unit, being the anti-cult unit in Enugu State, is to say the least hypocritical. I say this because prior to now, I believe there have been series of complaints against the officers and men of the Nigerian police force in this particular outfit, and the government of the day kept mum. Even there is a particular case that was decided by the High Court of Enugu State, in which the officer who was redeployed in the person of now SP Chidobe Ekeleme and another officer in the person of Mr. Jude, they were found culpable by a court of law here in Enugu State of being involved in the extrajudicial killing of one young man known as Chika Chukwunonso, a native of Amore in Nkano West Local Government Council of Enugu State here. Apart from the fact that this judgment was delivered by a court of competent jurisdiction, the presidency was notified about the pendency of that judgment. Some other, even the police authorities here in Enugu, they were formally notified. Yet nothing happened. The officer remained in his duty post. Now, this is one out of the numerous instances of cases of extrajudicial killing. The point is that the Nigerian police is a creation of the law, and these officers, they are not above the law. But if you take a look at the history of the Nigerian police, obviously, the Nigerian police, during our prior to our getting independence as a sovereign nation, was an institution established for the purpose of subjugating the Nigerian people. The Nigerian police wasn't created for the conventional roles being played by the police of maintaining law and order in any given society. Rather, the police was actually created as an instrument of subjugation. Now, when we gained independence, the indigenous Nigerian leaders also embraced this philosophy. And that's why many policemen have been embarking, I wouldn't want to make a generalized indictment, but I'm speaking contextually, the police as an institution. Many officers and men of the Nigerian police force, they have embraced the practice of extrajudicial killing and intimidation and subjugation of the Nigerian people because the leaders of the Nigerian nation are comfortable with this practice. Because the leaders of the Nigerian nation see this outfit as a tool to be used in subjugating the Nigerian people, and not basically for that geared towards ensuring that there is maintenance of law and order in the Nigerian society. And that's why even here in Enugu State, if you conduct discrete investigation, you find out that most of these tactical units like the anti-kidnapping and anti-call, that there are cases of extrajudicial killings going on in these outfits. I say this as a lawyer. I say this because in the course of doing my work as a lawyer here, I've had the opportunity to interact with some persons, maybe directly or indirectly, who have had cause, to be detained in these establishments. And I can tell you that many horrible things are going on in this state, unannounced. So the case of Iboja, which in the true sense of it may not even be regarded as a case of extrajudicial killing, is just an avenue to bring this issue, to the front burner. But the government of the day will not feign ignorance of what is taking place. But the point is that most of these officers serve the interest of the elites and the members of the ruling class in the society, in which case they are willing to tolerate some of the nefarious activities being committed by these individuals. If not, in the case of Chukwunonso that I mentioned, various establishments were notified about the pendency of that judgment, and nothing was done about it. And be rest assured that there have been such cases in time past, or at least complaints about the activities of these people. Yet the government of the day never did anything.
In the Chika's case, what really happened? How was he
killed? He was killed in an extrajudicial manner. There was evidence placed before the court that he was alleged to be a cultist, because there no court of law pronounced him being a cultist. He was alleged, and he was then apprehended. After he was apprehended, there were 2 in number that were apprehended. Thereafter, the family members of the young man couldn't trace his whereabouts any longer. Initially, police authorities denied knowing about his whereabouts. But after a series of investigation, somehow they owned door bets without giving any information as to what became of the young man. It was when the matter now came to court that they now admitted that he has been killed, but they now gave one flimsy reason. In fact, they claimed that his rivals killed him. But from the evidence placed before the court, it was discovered that he was actually killed by those policemen. In fact, directly under the control of now SP Chidobe Ekeleme. And the police was represented in that matter. So that evidence was established that they actually were responsible for the young man's death. You know, this presumption of innocence, no matter how bad an individual may be presumed to be, once the person is suspected to have committed a criminal offense, let him have his day in court. Just the same way the officer who is alleged to have been the brain behind the death of Iboja is to have his day in court. Let him have his day in court, because in our criminal jurisprudence, it is said that it is better for 99 criminals to go free than for a single innocent soul to be sent to the gallows. I repeat, it is better for 99 criminals to go free in Enugu State than for a single individual to be executed when that individual is innocent. Because there are situations whereby something may happen and all circumstances may point towards a particular direction. Whereas in the true sense of it, at the end of the day, that particular individual may be innocent. When you actually unravel the facts and circumstances of that particular case. We've had instances whereby people may be in possession of firearms without their neighbors being aware. You may be in the same vehicle with another individual who has some dangerous weapons in his custody without your being aware. In which case, when both parties are apprehended, they may find themselves in the same in the same terrain of being a criminal suspect. We've had instances whereby people were being accused falsely. And let me even point something out: the hypocritical stance of the government of the day in this regard. Coming to the issue of the same Chukwunonso, this matter was presented before the extrajudicial killing panel set up by the government of Enugu State under the then government of former Governor Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, otherwise known as NSAS panel. Many aggrieved citizens of Enugu State approached that NSAS panel. The NSAS panel sat, complaints and petitions were entertained. As I speak, the white paper is yet to be released. The government of the day is yet to do anything about the NSAS panel report in Enugu State. And government is a continuum. We talk about social contract theory, that people surrender their sovereignty to the state for the state to act as a trustee for the benefit of the citizenry. Yet to have a situation whereby the citizens have come forward to complain that some persons were brutalized by the police, that some persons were killed in an extrajudicial manner by the police, and the government of the day set up a panel to look into their complaints without doing anything. That's constitutional infraction. That, with due respect, the highest echelon of insensitivity and responsibility on the part of the government of Enugu State. And they believe that, as usual, that after the NSAS panel, that the reports will be given a decent burial. And it goes further in lending credence to the assertion, which I made earlier, that the leaders of the day in Nigeria, most of them, they are aware of the activities of some officers whose pastime is that of inflicting harm and embarking on all forms of extrajudicial killing. But because they feel that their interest is protected, because they believe that, of course, they have retinue of policemen and even soldiers at their beck and call who protect them, that the interest of the commoner is of less importance. Because they feel that maybe some of these men are maybe to a great extent trying to ensure that there is a level of sanity in the society, they now allow them to get away with whatever they do in a society, which is unfortunate. Which is at variance with the oath of office that most of these leaders took before they ascended the seat of government.
Some people, say that he was actually looking rough. And I'm beginning to ask the question, how would you say that artists and entertainers in Nigeria, should be protected in terms of their safety in this type of volatile environment. Do you think looking rough should, warrant anything that has to do with killing of a civilian?
That's an interesting one, because we will soon have a situation whereby people, in fact, it's already playing out in the country. People are being profiled based on their appearance. I know one should dress the way one would like to be addressed, but you should also appreciate that there are some professions for some professions and occupations that go hand in glove with some forms of dressing. And as an artist, as an organic artist, the disease Iboja has always been known to. He's a well-known fellow. Moreover, if you claim that the reason behind his ordeal had to do with had to do with his appearance, you shouldn't have allowed him come close to the anti-court unit in the first instance. You should have told him, "Come on, Mr. Iboja. We wanted you to perform for us, but we don't love the way. Please go back, go and change." But you allowed him. You are dancing to this thing. You saw the officers celebrating that. So it has nothing to do with his appearance. This is just some of the flimsy excuses. And let me even say something. If you go to some civilized nations, well-trained police officers, no matter how responsible you may look, if you're a criminal, they will know. They may not, have any evidence to lay their hands on. In fact, well-seasoned police officers, even here in Nigeria, maybe while executing their duties, mere looking at you, they can assess you psychologically to know if you have something, if you have a question to answer. Not necessarily going by your appearance. That's why at times, if you see a well-seasoned a well-experienced police officer, you don't need to go about searching the vehicle even though it falls within the realm of their powers, the powers which they will, going by the provision of the Constitution and the Police Act. Nevertheless, by assessing you psychologically, the person will be able to decipher that this person has a question to answer. So it's not all about appearance. There are some hardened criminals. They look very gentle. In fact, the real hardened criminals, if you see them, you won't even believe. They will look very responsible, look very gentle, have a very appealing demeanor, and whereas some of these haggard-looking men and women, some of these men and women who look very dangerous facially, most of them don't even have any nefarious attributes that they are associated with. But that's the irony of life. Because of their appearance, they're like, this young man is very hefty, no, he has something, this must be a bad guy because he's well built. Whereas the other young man who is in suit may actually be the dangerous person. That is in fact, when you meet a criminal, a criminal that is well lettered, he's a very dangerous criminal because he will be in a better position to even know how to maneuver, whatever barriers and barricades that may be placed on his way in perpetrating his nefarious deeds. So it has nothing to do with the person's appearance.
All right, Barrister, many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate. We'll just leave it here and continue following up with the update. So many persons have commended the governor with the way and manner that he responded quickly, visiting the family. We know there were youths that also protested about this particular death, but the governments have also stated that they should give them some time in order for investigations to be done. And the police are also saying that the investigation is still ongoing, and that they're going to release the report of that to the public when they are done. So you are nodding your head.
That's a very serious blunder. I hinted that you cannot arraign a man when you are not yet through with the investigation. They are about spoiling this case anyway. You cannot arraign a man in court when you are not yet through with the investigation because you want to appeal to the sentiment of the public. A very sensitive case of that nature, with the respect of less than 5 days, you concluded less than 5 days you are arraigned in court and remanded, because for you to arraign in court, you presented a case file to the magistrate court, and it was supposed to that case file that you presented that a directive was issued that the case file should not be sent to the DPP, and you are still conducting the investigation. They are already spoiling the case. Wow. In fact, finally, if you ask me, I'm sorry to say I have to say the government may also have a case to answer. If the government is now being in a haste to arraign the young man, the government, everybody involved in that is now also a suspect. Those who hastily arraign the officer should also, in all these criminal acts, whenever there is a crime, even those who are crying seriously, go and investigate them as well. If a man of a family or if a woman in a family is murdered, if a woman is murdered, the husband is the prime suspect, even when he's shouting that that the worst has happened to him. If a man is murdered, the wife is one of the primary suspects. So for the government to have hastily arraigned this man in court, when the investigation is said to be completed, let the world be told what actually happened to that man. A very sensitive case involving human life, you hastily you didn't even wait for up to a week or 2 weeks to conclude thorough investigation, you arraigned him in court. So the government, after we are part of the government. The government is also a suspect, so we all are part of the government.
Wow.
So you mean all of us?
All of us.
We'll continue engaging these issues with a view to finding solutions. All right. We'll be back shortly after this. To stay with us.